Every day, millions of people open their refrigerator, grab yesterday's leftovers, place them in the microwave, press a few buttons, and believe they're making a smart decision. After all, reheating food saves time, reduces waste, and helps stretch the grocery budget. But what if one simple habit you've practiced for years isn't as harmless as it seems? What if the biggest change isn't something you can taste, smell, or even see? Because sometimes the greatest changes happen at a microscopic level, long before your senses notice anything different. Today, we're exploring what modern food science has discovered about reheating certain everyday foods. Some of these findings may surprise you, especially if you regularly meal prep or rely on leftovers throughout the week. And here's what shocked me the most. One of the foods we'll discuss is considered one of the healthiest staples in kitchens around the world. Nutrition experts recommend it. Families eat it almost every day. Yet under certain storage and reheating conditions, it can change in ways most people never think about. So before you heat up your next plate of leftovers, stay with me until the end. The final food on today's list surprises almost everyone. Let's clear up one important misunderstanding before we begin. This isn't a message telling you that reheated food automatically causes cancer. That's simply not what the science says. The real issue is much more interesting and much more practical. When food is cooked, heat changes its proteins, fats, and vitamins. That's normal. Cooking often makes food safer and easier to digest. But once that food cools and is heated again, another set of chemical reactions can begin. Some foods tolerate those changes well, others don't. Scientists have spent decades studying what repeated heating can do to certain nutrients. Depending on the food, reheating may increase oxidation or affect food safety. Most people never notice these changes because nothing looks unusual. The meal may smell delicious. It may taste exactly the same. Yet the chemistry inside the food can be different from when it was first cooked. That's why understanding how you store food is just as important as how you cook it. Imagine slicing an apple. Leave it on the counter for a while and it slowly turns brown. That browning is oxidation. A similar process happens inside many cooked foods. Oils slowly react with oxygen. Proteins begin to change. Natural compounds break down little by little. Think of it like bending a paperclip. The first bend changes its shape. Keep bending it over and over, and eventually the metal weakens. Food experiences something similar. Every heating cycle places additional stress on its delicate chemical structure. Most of the time, these changes are small. But with certain foods, scientists recommend paying closer attention. Today we'll examine 4 examples, and the first one is rice. If I asked you to name the safest leftover food, many would answer rice. It's inexpensive, it's filling, it's easy to prepare in large batches. Around the world, billions of people cook rice every day, and millions reheat yesterday's leftovers without giving it a second thought. But rice has a unique characteristic that makes it different, and surprisingly, the biggest concern often begins before you even press the microwave button. Raw rice naturally contains bacterial spores from a microorganism called Bacillus cereus. Now, before that name sounds alarming, here's an important point. Finding these spores in uncooked rice is common. They're naturally present and can survive the initial cooking process because spores are heat resistant. Normally, this isn't a problem. The trouble begins if cooked rice sits at room temperature for too long before being refrigerated. Warm, moist rice is a perfect home for bacteria. As they grow, some strains produce toxins, and here's the part many people don't realize. Even if reheating destroys the bacteria, some toxins are heat stable. This is why experts emphasize cooling cooked rice promptly and refrigerating it soon instead of leaving it on the kitchen counter for hours. There's another piece most people never hear about. Scientists have also studied what happens when starchy foods experience repeated high-temperature cooking. Under certain conditions, especially high heat like frying or heavy browning, a compound called acrylamide can form. This happens when sugars react with an amino acid. Research organizations classify acrylamide as a probable human carcinogen. Scientists continue to investigate what this means for everyday dietary exposure. The important takeaway isn't that reheated rice suddenly becomes dangerous. Rather, repeated high-temperature browning may increase these compounds. That's one more reason many food scientists recommend avoiding repeated heating cycles whenever possible. So what's the smarter approach? If you're preparing rice, cool it promptly after cooking. Refrigerate it within 1 to 2 hours. Store it in a shallow container so it cools evenly. Reheat only the portion you plan to eat. Avoid reheating the same batch multiple times. These simple habits help improve both food safety and quality. If you thought rice was surprising, the next food may completely change the way you think about healthy meal prep. Millions of people eat it after workouts. Doctors recommend it as lean protein. Fitness enthusiasts cook it in bulk every Sunday. Yet when exposed to repeated high heat, researchers found chemical changes, and that's next. So far, we've learned that reheating food isn't always just about warming yesterday's dinner. Sometimes it's about how storage and repeated heating change the food itself. But if you thought rice was surprising, the next food is one that millions of people intentionally eat because they're trying to become healthier. Bodybuilders eat it. Doctors recommend it. Families serve it for dinner several nights a week. In fact, if you've ever prepared meals for the week ahead, there's a good chance you've filled several containers with this very food. The question is, can reheating it over and over change more than just its taste? Let's take a closer look. Food number 2, chicken. Chicken has earned its reputation as one of the healthiest protein sources. It's rich in protein, low in saturated fat, and packed with essential nutrients. For those reasons, chicken is often the centerpiece of meal prep plans. Cook once, store several portions, reheat throughout the week. Simple, convenient, efficient. But here's something many people never consider. The protein doesn't stay chemically identical after repeated exposure to high heat. What happens during repeated heating? Think about a rubber band. Stretch it once, it snaps back into shape. Stretch it again, still fine. Keep repeating that process over and over. Eventually it loses elasticity. Proteins behave in a somewhat similar way. The first time chicken is cooked, heat changes the structure of its proteins. That's normal. However, every additional round of high heat places more stress on those proteins. Researchers have found that repeated heating can increase oxidation. While oxidation occurs naturally, higher temperatures can accelerate these reactions. This doesn't mean every reheated chicken breast is dangerous. Instead, it reminds us that how chicken is reheated matters just as much as how often. One area of research has focused on compounds known as heterocyclic amines, often shortened to HCAs. These compounds are most likely to develop when meat is cooked at very high temperatures, grilling, pan-searing until heavily browned, or charring. Scientists have spent decades studying HCAs because research suggests they may damage DNA. Organizations like the IARC have evaluated these compounds extensively. The important point is this: reheating chicken gently isn't the same as burning it. Problems become more likely when meat is repeatedly exposed to excessive temperatures. In other words, it's usually not the reheating alone, it's how aggressively the reheating is done. Meal preparation itself isn't the problem. Healthy meals ahead of time can help people avoid fast food and make better nutritional choices. The goal is to meal prep more wisely. Instead of blasting chicken until it's drying out, try reheating it gently. A lower oven temperature or a splash of water before microwaving can preserve texture. Sometimes the healthiest habit isn't cooking differently, it's simply heating more gently. Now here's where today's story takes an unexpected turn. The next food isn't meat, it isn't processed, it isn't fried. In fact, many doctors encourage people to eat more of it. Parents add it to smoothies. Nutritionists praise it. Health-conscious families buy it every week. Yet under certain conditions, this vegetable undergoes chemical changes. If there was one food on this list that surprised me personally, it's this one. Food number 3, spinach and other leafy greens. Spinach has become a symbol of healthy eating. It's loaded with vitamins, rich in minerals, and high in antioxidants. It deserves its reputation as a healthy food. There's absolutely no question that spinach is healthy, but like many things in nutrition, context matters. The science starts in the refrigerator. Fresh spinach naturally contains compounds called nitrates. These naturally occurring nitrates aren't automatically harmful. They're linked to healthy blood pressure. The story changes only after several steps. First, the spinach is cooked, then it's stored. During storage, bacteria can gradually convert nitrates into nitrites. But under certain conditions, including additional heating and reactions during digestion, scientists have investigated whether compounds called nitrosamines can form. Nitrosamines have received significant attention because some types have been linked to cancer in laboratory studies. This is why food scientists continue researching these methods. Let's pause for a reality check. Hearing words like nitrosamines can sound alarming, but it's essential to keep everything in perspective. Spinach is still one of the healthiest choices you can make. The concern isn't spinach itself. The concern is unnecessary storage and repeated heating. Modern nutrition isn't about good or bad foods, it's about smarter decisions. If you're cooking spinach, prepare only what you'll eat. If leftovers remain, refrigerate them promptly. Many experts suggest enjoying leftover cooked spinach cold in salads or wraps. Simple adjustments allow you to continue enjoying nature's healthiest vegetables while minimizing unnecessary repeated heating. We've now covered 3 foods: rice, chicken, and spinach. But the fourth and final food is in a category all by itself. It's one of the most nutritionally complete foods on Earth. Doctors, nutritionists, and fitness experts all recommend it. Parents serve it, children eat it before school, and almost nobody thinks twice about reheating it. Yet food chemistry suggests it deserves far more attention, and once you understand why, you may never look at leftover breakfast the same way again. Before we reveal the last food on today's list, let's pause for a moment. So far, we've explored foods that millions prepare every week: rice, chicken, spinach. Each one taught us the same lesson. It's not simply what you eat that matters. It's also how you store and heat it. But the final food may be the most surprising of all, because almost no one thinks of it as risky. In fact, many prepare a week's supply in advance. Some eat it every morning before work. Others include it in meal prep because it's inexpensive, filling, and packed with nutrition. Ironically, that's exactly why this final example deserves our attention. Food number 4, eggs. Eggs have earned their reputation as one of nature's most complete foods. They're an excellent source of high-quality protein, rich in choline, which supports brain function. They provide vitamin D, selenium, B12, and antioxidants like lutein and zeaxanthin that help protect eye health. For decades, eggs have remained one of the most affordable and nutrient-dense foods available. So why would reheating them deserve a closer look? The answer isn't because eggs suddenly become bad. It's because repeated heating changes some of their natural chemistry. Egg yolks naturally contain fats and cholesterol. When cooked for the first time, those fats experience mild oxidation. That's a normal reaction whenever fat is exposed to heat. But after refrigeration and another round of heating, oxidation can continue. Researchers have studied compounds called oxysterols, which are oxidized forms of cholesterol that can form during repeated heating. Scientists continue investigating how these compounds interact with inflammation, cardiovascular health, and long-term cellular function. This doesn't mean reheated eggs are automatically dangerous. Rather, it reminds us that repeated heating changes the composition more than many realize. Microwaves aren't the entire problem. Many people assume the microwave itself is the issue. Actually, the appliance isn't the real concern. What matters most is excessive heat. Whether food is reheated in a microwave, frying pan, or oven, high temperatures accelerate oxidation. That's why food scientists often recommend reheating gently instead of cooking leftovers until they're extremely hot or dried out. Sometimes less heat really is better. A better way to enjoy eggs. If you're making breakfast ahead of time, there are smarter options. Hard-boiled eggs are often best enjoyed cold. Egg salad can be served chilled. If you're reheating an egg dish, warm only the portion you'll eat instead of repeatedly heating the same container. Small habits like these may help preserve both flavor and food quality. Now let's step back. Today's video wasn't really about 4 individual foods. It was about something much larger. Modern food science has shown that cooking doesn't end when the stove turns off, food continues changing while stored, oxygen continues reacting with fats. Natural enzymes keep working. Moisture shifts. Some nutrients slowly degrade. And when we introduction heat again, those reactions continue. That's why food safety isn't just about cooking temperatures. It's about the entire journey from preparation to storage to reheating. The encouraging news is that protecting yourself doesn't require expensive equipment. It simply means building a few smarter habits into your routine. Cool leftovers promptly. Don't leave cooked food sitting on the counter for hours. Refrigerate it within about 2 hours or 1 hour if it's especially warm. Store food in shallow containers. Smaller containers allow food to cool more evenly and reduce the time spent in the rapid bacterial growth range. Reheat only what you'll eat. Instead of warming the same large container repeatedly, Divide leftovers into portions and heat only the amount you need. Avoid repeated reheating. Every additional cycle alters texture, flavor, and chemical compounds. Whenever possible, limit leftovers to one reheating. Use gentle heat. There's usually no need to blast leftovers at maximum temperature. Lower, even heating often preserves moisture and reduces overcooking. Plan meals wisely. Preparing slightly smaller portions can reduce leftover waste altogether. Sometimes the healthiest leftover is the one you never needed to store. If you remember only one thing, let it be this. Healthy eating isn't about fear, it's about understanding. Nutrition isn't a collection of perfect and dangerous foods. It's a collection of daily habits. No single meal determines your future health. What matters most is the pattern you follow over months and years. Habits can always improve. One better decision today becomes another tomorrow. Those small choices add up, not overnight, but over a lifetime. Now I'm curious, which food surprised you the most? Was it rice, chicken, spinach, or eggs? Share your answer in the comments below. I'd also love to know what other everyday foods you'd like us to explore. Your questions often inspire the next topic we investigate. Science continues evolving every year. Researchers constantly discover new information. That's why it's important to stay curious rather than relying on myths. The goal is to understand leftovers better. Because knowledge gives us something powerful, the ability to make informed choices. When you understand how food changes, you're no longer relying on guesswork. You're making decisions based on evidence, and that's one of the most valuable ingredients any kitchen can have. If you found this helpful, consider sharing with someone who regularly meal preps. Knowledge helps people make smarter everyday decisions. Subscribe for more health videos. Until next time, take care of yourself, take care of those around you, and remember, the healthiest choices are often the small ones you make every single day.